This is Embodied Success, the podcast, where we explore topics that help to balance your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. With these four elements interacting in harmony, we can experience joy in both our career and personal lives. This is Embodied Success. Hello and welcome to Embodied Success, the podcast. This is your host, Sarah Ann Ferguson, somatic practitioner and quantum living mentor. And today we are going to be talking about alcohol and the quantum field. So this is an interesting topic, and you may be wondering where on earth I'm going in this direction. But I was always planning at some point to talk about alcohol on this podcast. And I knew it would eventually come up, and it will probably come up a few times, but I wanted to talk about the connection between alcohol and the quantum field, because if you are someone who is interested in reaching higher levels of consciousness, then you'll find this information interesting, and my journey into higher consciousness and how that's connected to alcohol is interesting. So I'll start briefly by talking about my history with alcohol, and then we'll get into how it's related. So basically, I have quite a checkered history with alcohol. I was never a good drinker from the very beginning in high school. When I started experimenting with alcohol, I always drank too much. I would get to the point where I didn't remember. I would experience blackouts. And that continued into my 20s. And during my 20s, I loved traveling and partying and drinking and all of that. So I would a lot of the times experience blackouts. And I knew that was very dangerous and problematic. But what I didn't really see at the time is how much my self-worth was attached to those behaviors of excessive drinking. And it wasn't until I sort of reached my 30s, around my Saturn return, where I started to get to know who I truly was and actually love myself and start to care for myself, start doing things like Pilates and eating nutritious foods and really paying attention to that stuff. And that was around the time where I kind of got a little bit of a handle on my drinking, but would still occasionally experience these blackouts. And I became pretty self-aware about how I drank, because I didn't want to experience that. So I would see myself in these social situations drinking, and I would notice, I would look around and I would be like, okay, I just finished my drink and that person has taken like 2 sips. So I'm drinking like 5 times faster than everyone else. So of course I'm going to end up in this state. So I would try and slow myself down, but there was this level of social anxiety that I think made me drink quicker. So, and that has taken a lot to overcome, and it does come with age, and also a lot to do with self-development and whatnot. But then also becoming a parent, becoming a mother, that completely transformed my relationship to alcohol. Because when we have children, your life changes, and I didn't want to bring that kind of behavior into my mothering. I wanted to be the best parent that I could be, and so I was able to sort of get a handle on it. But it was still something that I did. And it was still something that didn't bring me great health and didn't give me good sleep. And there was, I always saw that it was a negative thing in my life, but it felt like something that I relied on. And it wasn't until just over a year ago that I got extremely burnt out and I was very overwhelmed, very dysregulated, running my first business, my housemart business, that I decided to get help and went and saw a somatic practitioner. And during this time that I was seeing this practitioner and doing somatic therapy, my partner said to me that he wanted to try and quit drinking. And so I said, yep, I'm happy to join you in that and support you in that. So let's try, let's do say 3 months and see how we go. And so that happened just as I was doing the therapy and finishing the therapy. And so in that time, that 3 months that we weren't drinking, I experienced my spiritual awakening, is what I'm calling it, and what many people would describe what I experienced as that sort of, like the death of my ego. My world shattered. I saw life completely differently, and it has a connection with the fact that there was no alcohol in my life at the time. In this therapy, I released all of these trapped emotions, this stored trauma in my body. It was all released and processed and integrated, but all got to happen without me drinking or having alcohol in my life. And so I was amazed at what the awareness that was happening in my life and the higher levels of consciousness that I was experiencing, that I decided that I wasn't going to continue to drink alcohol because I wanted more of this. This was extremely exciting. And so I kind of did that the rest of the year. And then there were a few times towards the end of the year around the silly season where we went traveling, and I drank on that holiday and a few times around Christmas and New Year's. And I came to the realization that alcohol takes me completely out of alignment. It can take sometimes over a week after I've drank to get back in the headspace that I generally live in now. And this headspace is just full of optimism and excitement and joy and bliss every day, and regulated. My nervous system is always regulated. And when there's something happening that I've decided, well, I'll have drinks for this occasion, it really, really affects me. And so that's what inspired me to do this episode. And it was actually just this past weekend, we had this big family gathering, and it was such a special occasion. I was like, I'm going to have a couple drinks. And that night, after I went to sleep, I woke in the middle of the night, and I just had this negative, fear-based, looping thoughts that I hadn't experienced since the beginning of the year when I drank last. And it's because when you drink alcohol, it brings up your ego, and your ego becomes louder. And this work that I've done, this I say death of the ego, it's not that dramatic. The ego's not dead, but the ego is quieted. because our ego is what wants to keep us small and the same. And its main objective is to survive. So it's just having that experience just this past weekend of these negative looping thoughts. It really just reminded me of how alcohol, it takes me out of alignment. And it probably does for a lot of people. So I'm here today doing this podcast not to tell you to stop drinking and how bad it is for you, but I'm just talking about what's possible if you consider not having it in your life as much. And the times that you do have it, you might see how dramatic the effect is, because that's what's happened to me. I've gone from having it sort of regularly in my life to maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and those 2 or 3 times I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is how shitty I feel in my mind, in my body, my spirit, like my emotions, everything just becomes just completely out of balance. And so how we relate this to the quantum field is that we have a filter on us, and in that filter is all of our conditioning, what we've been conditioned to believe, who we are. And we have access to all the infinite possibilities swirling around out there in the quantum field. But based on what's in that filter is what we will get. So if we are conditioned to believe that drinking is going to alter our emotional state and make us feel better, and we suppress our emotions by drinking, we don't let them out, then that is the experience we're going to have with the quantum field. And so by not drinking and cleaning out this filter, stripping away these layers of conditioning that we believe like we're not good enough, or for me, it was social anxiety and issues with my self-worth. If we strip those layers away and become more healthy, then suddenly these infinite possibilities start to appear. So I'm going to talk about the six things that alcohol does to affect our connection with the quantum field. And the first one is on like a chemical level, it's a depressant, and it disrupts the balance of neurotransmitters in the brain and affects our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. So this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say I woke up in the middle of the night and I had all these negative thought patterns and anxious feelings, and that's on a chemical level. It literally changes the chemical makeup of your brain, and so that's going to affect your connection with what's possible for you. And so that's number one. Number two, it alters the state of your subtle body. And your subtle body is the energetic blueprint of your physical body. So think of it as your mind, your intellect, and your ego. So it's altering the state. If you had your ego sort of quieted down there and your mind and your intellect were expansive, then alcohol is going to come in there and it's going to say, here's a microphone, ego, and your ego is going to start spouting out all kinds of feelings of fear and lack and scarcity, anxiety, judgment, separation, shame, guilt, discomfort, stagnation, and it's going to thrive on that inner turmoil and that hopeless feeling, that frustration, that broken feeling. And all of that is going to make you contract and be small, less expansive, and less access to what's happening out there in the quantum field. And so number three is connected to this. It opens your auric field to more negative energies. So you become vulnerable to the all the other energies swirling around. I don't know if have you noticed when you've been after you've had like a big weekend or something and someone may be in a bad mood, how badly that affects you. Like you feel that energy and it makes you anxious or makes you feel sad, or you're more you're more vulnerable to these other energies that aren't yours. And depending on what your human design type is, you might be someone with a lot of open centers, and that's me. I all my centers are open except for my heart center and my sacral. So that means I take in and amplify everyone else's energy. So when I've been taken off balance and out of alignment from having a night of drinking, then I will be taking in all these energies that aren't mine, amplifying them, and probably feeling a lot worse for it. So that's number 3. And number 4 is that it muffles the voice of your higher self. So picture you've got your higher self who's whispering to you, sending you signals, signs, synchronicities, coincidences, trying to get your attention in a really subtle way. That's your higher self saying, look, this is what's possible if you pay attention, if you listen. And then there's the ego. And the ego is feeding off the lack and the scarcity that comes from the chemical imbalance that alcohol causes. So the ego gets louder and the higher self gets quieter. And when you're not drinking, you'll notice that suddenly you hear the whispers of your higher self and you see the signs, and suddenly things open up for you. There's infinite possibilities. So that's number 4. Number 5 is alcohol makes it harder to manifest. So this is related to the law of attraction. You attract what you put out. So if you are feeling like shit because you had a night out, or you feel like shit because you had 2 drinks and you got a really bad night's sleep and you just feel horrible, then you're going to attract that feeling, because it is it's how you feel in the moment is what you attract in that moment. And it's not that things happen for a reason, it's more that things happen because you're a vibrational match for them. So in other words, you become the frequency that attracts that vibration. So if you aren't having lots of alcohol in your life, then you might find that your manifestations speed up. And with that higher vibration, that positive outlook, that optimism, because you feel great, that you're getting things that are coming into your life that you have attracted. Okay, so the last one is that alcohol closes your third eye. And this is your pineal gland, and that a closed third eye is going to cause confusion, uncertainty, cynicism, pessimism, jealousy, envy, one-sidedness. And you also have to remember that this is the gland that produces the hormone melatonin. So it is what helps our circadian rhythm. It helps our body know the rhythms of night and day and when to feel sleepy, and alcohol just takes that all out of balance. So there's things that we know on like a personal level that if we're not drinking alcohol, there are obvious things, is what I'm getting at. We have better relationships, better biological functions, more energy to do things. We have a more regulated nervous system. We have better sleep. But on a quantum level, if we are not having alcohol in our life, we are having the kind of restorative sleep that allows us to ascend to a higher consciousness, and we have more clarity, more decisiveness, we have more concentration, we experience bliss, we have a better intuition and clear channels of intuitive insight. We have the ability to feel energy and have vivid dreams or lucid dreams, or even astral astral travel in our dreams. And added to that is more enhanced imagination and being able to see auras, energy, and non-physical beings. So these things all become more possible when we aren't doing things to our body that lowers our vibration. And alcohol is from my experience, that is what it does. And so I'd love to challenge you, if you are someone that does drink regularly or has the odd drinks and then feels terrible for it, I would love to challenge you to trying 3 months of none. And during that 3 months, try and do some things to regulate your nervous system and process some of those repressed emotions that are trapped in your body. And there are ways to do. There are lots of free resources that you can find on my Instagram. Lots of things like EFT tapping. You can move some of that energy around. And I also, if you want to get in touch with me, I do one-to-one quantum somatic sessions. So we can work with those trapped emotions, those unprocessed emotions, those traumas, generational trauma, as well as the habit or the addiction to alcohol. By working through these emotions, you work with that habit and that addiction. So you might find that if you begin to work on yourself, to work on these trapped energies in your body, that you may not feel you need the alcohol anymore. And because that's what was my experience. I was just taking a break, but happened to at the same time be doing this somatic therapy. And that's what then caused things to really open up for me in my mind. So yeah, if you need help, please reach out. I can help you. I can recommend you to practitioners that can help you if you are struggling with addiction or a habit that you feel is causing you a lot of pain in your life. Then please, I'll drop my email in the show notes, as well as my Instagram handle, which you can DM me on there. So you always know that if you are struggling, that you're not alone, and that change is possible, and that you can have a life of unlimited potential. There is so much, there's infinite possibilities out there for you in the quantum field, for all of us. Many, many, many possibilities, many dimensions. So think about that and how positive that is, and how amazing it would be to have that outlook, how good that would feel in your body, and how much that would expand your heart center. So I think that's it. Yeah. So I hope you found this episode to be helpful or inspiring in some way. And like I said, I'll drop my contact info in the show notes if you want to get in touch with me and find out more about my one-to-one offers, as well as all my free resources. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening.